Hello, I'm Will and this is Mike with the Tabletop Donkeys.
Hello.
And in this video we'll be looking at issue 21 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine, which came with an Aeldari Farseer model to begin the Aeldari Combat Patrol that we will be putting together over the next 10 issues. And we also got a second double-sided battle mat, which matches the first one on both sides. We'll be looking at the painting and build guides for the Farseer as usual, and then he will be featuring in our game, trying to hold off a swarm of Tyranid Termagants. Having a look inside the issue first, we have the build instructions for the Farseer. From now on, we're not going to have many easy-to-build push-fit models, so you will be needing glue for most of the models going forward, including this one. It comes with quite a few parts which help add the volume to various robes on the Farseer, but it mostly goes together quite well. The only bit to be careful of is the spear arm, which is not entirely clear what angle it's supposed to go at, so just wiggle it until it feels like it's in the right position. And it also comes with a moulded base on the sprue, rather than a separate one. Then we have the painting guide. The magazine tells you to paint the Aeldari in this collection as coming from the same Handcraft world, which is a red and white one. Although I've painted mine in a different colour scheme, which you'll get to see with the Farseer and then the other models as we go forward. But here we're starting with an all-over base coat of Mephiston red, since that's the majority colour, and then using Wraithbone for the inside of the cloak. There's a couple of strings as well, hold pouches and bags and things. Then Abaddon black for the faceplate of the helmet and the leather pouches, as well as the Farseer's boots and the haft of the spear. Then we're using Corax white for the rest of the helmet, the shoulder pads and the sash across the Farseer's middle, and then Screamer pink for the exterior of the cloak to give a slightly different shade of red, so it's not all just the same colour, and to differentiate this different material from the red armour. Then using Retributor armour for the gold details, like the runes on the chest, the rings on Farseer's arms and the various gems and trinkets, and then Leadbelcher for the blade of the spear. And then all that's left to do is the gems and eye lenses. So Screamer pink for the big gem on the forehead and a couple of the other gems, and Macragge blue for the rest of them and the eye lenses. Although you can paint the gems whatever colour you think looks best. Then we have the background for the Aeldari. They are an ancient species who once ruled the majority of the galaxy, but were overcome by a great catastrophe of their own making, and their empire was shattered into a shadow of its former self. Now the survivors mostly live on gigantic ships called craft worlds, where they practice a way of life that avoids the temptations that caused their original downfall. Though there are also other populations that live in the webway, a sort of alternate dimension that they use for travel around the galaxy, and also on very secluded planets. But regardless, they all have ways of avoiding the predations of the Chaos God Slaanesh that hungers after their souls. They have incredibly advanced technology compared to most of the rest of the denizens of the galaxy. Most of their technology is based on organic, psychic reactive plastics that can be melded with the user's mind. And despite their dwindling numbers, they are still a fearsome foe when at war, using their technology and their skills practiced over their very long lifetimes. Then we have some more about the Immaterium, also known as the Warp, which has been mentioned before. It's basically a hellish dimension of peril and terror that is generated by the emotions of all living creatures. But despite the perils that it encompasses, it's the only way to travel between the stars at anything like a reasonable pace. Otherwise the Imperium in particular would fall to pieces. But navigating it is not straightforward, being more akin to a roiling sea of emotion than a physical dimension. Time passes strangely and ships can get lost, even with the specially psychically sensitive navigators guiding them. It's also used for interstellar communication through the power of the astropaths, specially trained psychers who can cast messages across the void. But it is home to many malevolent entities, most prominently the demons of the gods of chaos. Then we have a short story called Mind War about an Aeldari Farseer trying to divine the purposes of her enemies, but ends up actually locked in a psychic duel with a practitioner of the psychic arts of the forces of chaos. And although she does manage to best him, it costs her more than she realises. And there's also a little sidebar talking about how the Aeldari are a very psychically sensitive species, and many of them are capable of becoming very powerful psychers. Finally, we have the collection article for the Farseer. They are some of the most powerful psychers in the galaxy and use their power to divine the fates, trying to save the Aeldari species from extinction. As usual, you have a table you can use to name your Farseer and record when you've built, paint and played with it. And then as usual we have its datasheet, but I'll leave that to Mike to go over as we head into our game.
Well, before we can get into today's game, we can have a look at the datasheet for our new Aeldari Farseer. And he's got a 7-inch move, toughness 3, a 6+ save, but a 4+ invulnerable save, 4 wounds, leadership 6+, and OC of 1. He has 3 range weapons. He has the Eldritch Storm, which is a psychic weapon with the blast keyword. There's a 24 Eldritch range, d6 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 6, AP+2 with d3 damage. Has a Shuriken pistol, which has assault and is a pistol weapon with a 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2, strength 4, AP+1, 1 damage. And his singing spear he can throw, also has assault and is a psychic attack, has a 12-inch range, 1 attack, hitting on 2, strength 9, AP 0, 3 damage. And in melee, the singing spear is also a psychic weapon with 2 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 3, AP 0, 3 damage. And he can lead a unit of Guardian Defenders, which we'll be getting in a later issue. He has a character and an infantry unit. He has the faction rule Strands of Fate, which we'll learn about in the future, and he has the Fortune psychic ability, where in the Aeldari player's command phase you can roll a d6, and on a 2+, you can select one friendly Aeldari unit within 12 inches of the Farseer, and until your next command phase, each time an attack targets that unit you subtract 1 from the wound roll. He's quite a nice support character. And now we can get into our game behind enemy lines. So somewhere else on another desperate battlefield of the 41st millennium, a lone Farseer is trying to retrieve some intelligence behind Tyranid lines. So we're actually using our new battle map that came with this issue and using the other side for the sort of wastelandy, slightly overgrown area. And then the Farseer is on one of the short edges. There are 3 objective markers fairly close to him along the horizontal. For the Tyranids, the left-hand quarter of the board is divided into 2 spawn points for Termagants. So what's going to happen is Termagants will spawn at the start of each Tyranid player's command phase. You roll a dice, and on a roll of 1 to 3, you deploy a unit of 2 Termagants on spawn point 1, or on a 4 to 6, they deploy it in spawn point 2. And if the Aeldari player begins their command phase within 3 inches of one of the objectives, they've gathered intelligence from that objective. If they can do that twice, and then the Farseer survives until the end of the 4th battle round, the Aeldari player will win. Otherwise, if the Aeldari Farseer is killed, then the Tyranid player wins. So again, it gives you a little turn overview, just sort of reminding you of the abilities that all of the units have. It doesn't mention the Farseer's invulnerable save or his fortune ability. We haven't learnt about invulnerable saves yet, and with the Space Marine and other Tyranid units, when they've had abilities on their datasheet, we haven't used them. So I think for the first game, we will go into it assuming that we aren't supposed to use those. If it turns out that that makes it too easy for the Tyranids, we'll play another game and have those abilities available, because that's what you would normally see. It's just normally they'd introduce these sorts of things. There hasn't been any tutorial on how to use the Farseer yet. It's a bit strange to just throw him straight into a game, but... And again, same thing for the Tyranid's turn. There is actually a little bit of advice if you're playing this game solo. You'd have the Tyranids played by the computer player, as it were. This gives you some advice on what to do with them. And here you have the victory outcomes, although you can see there in the Tyranid victory it seems the Farseer will survive nonetheless. And we'll get into our game. Well, here we are on another far-flung battlefield. We haven't put any terrain cards down because we haven't been told to, and the only unit on the board is the Farseer, and we have our 3 objectives. And I'll still be playing the Tyranids, whereas Will will be playing the Aeldari. So we'll be rolling off for the first turn. Well, I've won the roll-off, so I guess I'm going first. On to Tyranids turn 1. Well, I get to roll and see which spawn point my Termagants appear. 1 to 3, it's spawn point 1, which is at the top. 4 to 6, it's spawn point 2, which is at the bottom. No, it's at the top. So there, my 2 Termagants have appeared. I'm actually going to put them near the middle of the board, because that's the most versatile place I can put them. And they're immediately going to advance, but I only rolled a 1. So I get to move 7 inches, but that should get them in range of the Farseer. So there we are, moving up closer to the Farseer, getting within 18-inch range. And remember, Termagants have assault on their weapons, so they can advance and shoot. So they're going to shoot at him in the shooting phase. So we have 2 shots, hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, and wounding on 3s. Oh, double 1, no wounds.
The Farseer's obviously toughness 3.
Although, just remembered we should have command points, so I'll actually re-roll one of those failed wounds into a success.
At least as far as we know so far, I only have a 6+ armour save. We haven't been told what invulnerable saves are yet. Oh, well, I rolled a 6, so never mind.
Well, that was a quick turn. On to Aeldari turn 1.
In the command phase, anything that happens is we gain another command point each, and then in the movement phase we can move our full 7 inches to there, so being within 3 inches of objective 2, so in my next command phase I'll be able to gather the intel, but getting closer to objective 1, so I'm going to do it over there as well. And then in the shooting phase we can shoot at the Termagants. So I will use the Singing Spear and the Eldritch Storm power, because if I use the Shuriken Pistol, that's the only weapon I'd be able to use. Let's do the Eldritch Storm first. It has d6 shots. 1. It hits on a 3. It did, and it will wound on a 2 because it's strength 6. That did wound, and it is AP -2.
So that is one dead Termagant.
Yeah, it does D3 damage, but obviously they only have 1 wound. And then we have the Singing Spear, which is 1 shot that hits on a 2. That did hit, and it was strength 9, so it also wound on a 2. That is a wound, but it doesn't have any AP.
And this will be a 5+ save. Failed. You know what, I'll re-roll it, because I've got nothing better to spend the command points on. And I rolled it into a success. 1 Termagant left, that's probably quite good for me.
Yeah, well I'm not going to charge it though, of course, because I need to stay near the objective in my command phase.
Now we'll be on to Tyranid's turn 2. And I'll be rolling for where my reinforcements come in. A 5 is spawn point 2. So my second pair of Termagants have arrived, and I deployed them round about here in spawn point 2, and they advanced, and they got a 2 this time, so a little bit closer to the Farseer, while the original Termagant remaining has moved up normally. I'm probably going to try and charge the Farseer just to hold him up a bit. And then with shooting, I might as well roll all 3 Termagants together, because they're all going to be needing the same to hit and wound. So we'll have 3 shots in total, hitting on 4s, getting 1. I'll re-roll one of those. Into a hit, 2 hits. Wounding on 3s, 1 wound.
1 6+ save. I failed, but I've got a ton of command points, so I might as well re-roll that and try and get a 6. No. So the Farseer takes a wound, down to 3.
Well, and then we're going to charge with that lone Termagant. It'll probably get squished, but if I can hold up the Farseer, that makes it easier for me to win the game. 3 is just enough, I think. The Termagant's going to get in the way of the Farseer. Well, the Termagant has 1 attack hitting on a 4. He missed.
Well, the Farseer has 2 attacks back with his Singing Spear, which hit on 2s. We are in a new phase, so I will re-roll that into another hit, hopefully. Yes, I do. But these are only strength 3, so they'll only be winning on 4s. Only 1. It has 0 AP, though.
5+ armour. No. So Termagant takes 3 damage and dies. Farseer is freed up again as we head into Aeldari turn 2.
So in my command phase I do complete the gathering of the intelligence on one of the 2 objectives that I need to win, and then in the movement phase we'll move towards objective 1, staying more than 9 inches away from the Termagants so I don't trigger their skulking horrors rule and let them move for free, but within 12 so I can shoot them with both of my weapons. So we'll do the Eldritch Storm again first, and then the Singing Spear afterwards. D6 shots, 5 this time, that's better. Hitting on 3s, and 4, and wounding on 2s. Oh, they're both dead.
Well, I'm definitely not going to stop the Farseer from retrieving the intelligence, but I can still kill him before the end of turn 4. So as we head into Tyranid's turn 3, I'm going to be rolling for my reinforcements. It's spawn point 1 again. So my 2 Termagants have moved on. I'm moved up normally, just so we can try and make a long charge into the Farseer. That will get me a couple of extra attacks. But with shooting, we have 2 shots hitting on 4s, getting 2 hits, and wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds.
2 6s needed. No, but I'll re-roll 1. No, so 2 damage, down to 1 wound remaining.
And in the charge phase, we will charge the Farseer. Need a good roll though, definitely more than a 6. We need a 9, so I'll re-roll it into a 10. 10 is enough to get them into melee with the Farseer, and they get to go first. 2 attacks on 4s, getting 1 hit. I'll re-roll that, fail, into a hit, and wounding on 4s. 1 wound.
6 to live with a reroll because I'm going to need it. No.
So the Farseer is killed. So that will be a Tyranid victory, but what we'll do now is we'll play this game again and we'll give the Farseer his 4+ invulnerable save and his fortune ability because we know how they work, so we might as well show them off. And we'll roll off for who goes first. Well, I won the roll off again, so on to Tyranid's turn 1. So both gain a command point, and my Termagants appear in spawn point 1. So Termagants moving on, and we're just going to move up normally 6 inches. We don't actually need to advance to get in range of the Farseer. And then shooting. 2 shots hitting on 4s, getting 1 hit, and I'll re-roll that 2 into a 2. So only 1 hit. Wounds on a 3. It does.
So this time we'll use the 4+ invulnerable save, which for the purposes of this mission works just the same as a normal save. There's nothing special about it. In this game really, yes, that is a 4, that is a success.
And that'll be it for Tyranid's turn 1, on to the Farseer's turn.
So in my command phase I'll now use the fortune ability, which goes off on a 2+, and if it's successful its effect triggers, which it does. So I can pick an Aeldari unit within 12 inches of the Farseer, and that does include himself, because he is an Aeldari unit, so I'll pick him, obviously, and now he's -1 to wound for the Termagants. We'll go towards the bottom of the board this time, so still moving within 3 inches of objective 2, but then we'll throw the Singing Spear and unleash an Eldritch Storm on the Termagants. So Eldritch Storm, one shot. I will use a command point this time to reroll the number of shots. 4, hitting on 3s. They will hit and wounding on 2s. Yes, 4 wounds.
Yep. Yeah, that's 2 dead Termagants. Back to square one with no Tyranids on the board as we head into Tyranid's turn 2. So my reinforcements arrive in spawn point 2. So Termagants moving in normally once again. See if we can try and charge the Farseer after we shoot. Shooting, 2 attacks, hitting on 4s. Getting 1 hit, I'll re-roll one of those. 2 hits, now we're wounding on 4s, because normally it would be 3s, but -1 means we need 4s. Oh, 2 4s, so that's still 2 wounds.
But now with the 4+ invulnerable save, we failed both. We can re-roll these as well, so we will re-roll one of them. Into a success, so only 1 wound taken.
And then I think we're going to try and charge, because the Farseer is slightly less dangerous in melee. So we need an 8-inch charge to get within an inch. Or 12 is definitely enough. So we'll move in like that and try and block the Farseer off from objective 3. Termagants get to go first. We've got 2 attacks hitting on 4s. Getting a hit. I'm not going to re-roll it, I'm going to save it for an armour save. Wounds on a 5 though, because normally it would be 4s. 4 it wounds.
4+. Failed. I'll use my last command point. Succeeded. So no damage. 2 attacks in return, hitting on 2s. Oh, we've got a miss and run out of command points, and then this will be wounding on a 4. Oh, it did, but no AP.
And with a 5+ armour save, I made it. And then we'll be on to Aeldari turn 2.
Fortune again. Oh, it didn't actually work this time. So no -1 to wound. Well, I think we're going to stay in melee because I can shoot my pistol at them, and hopefully with that and the melee attacks we will actually finish them off, and then maybe the Tyranids won't make another charge, especially if they deploy in the other spawn point a bit further away.
Yeah, and the Farseer does complete the intelligence gathering on objective 2 though, it doesn't matter that he's in combat. And he's shooting with his pistol.
Yep, we have 1 shot that hits on a 2. Oh, it missed. You know what, I'll re-roll that because it's actually better than his melee attacks. It did hit this time. It's strength 4, so it'll be wounding on a 3. It did, and it's AP -1.
So we need a 6.
Oh.
Roll a 6. Well, and seeing as it's the Aeldari turn, I get to pick first in the fight phase, so the 2 Termagants get to fight. We've got 2 attacks on 4s. They both hit. Wounding on 4s, because Fortune did not go off. It's 2 wounds.
2 4+ saves. Made 1, failed 1, and I'm out of command points, so down to 2 wounds.
And then the Farseer has his spear.
So they both hit, but they wound on 4s. 1, no AP.
With a 5+ save. Failed. I think I'd probably re-roll that. No, 1 Termagant dead. Fortune not favouring the Aeldari in that battle round, as we head into Tyranid's turn 3. And then my reinforcements are arriving in spawn point 1, so it is a little bit further away. So my 2 new Termagants have moved on normally, going to have to try and make another long charge, while the remaining Termagant has fallen back, and I'm falling back away from objective 3 just so the Farseer can't charge if he does survive. And I think it's better to try and shoot the Farseer because my guns are more effective than melee. So I've only got shooting from the 2 new arrivals. 2 shots on 4s, getting 1 hit. I'll take that because I want to save my command point for a rerolled charge. Wounds on a 3, it does.
4+ save, failed, but we've got a command point. Succeeded.
And then we're going to have to try and charge him, needing a 9. 6 isn't enough, so I'll re-roll it into a 5. So we're not going to be able to stop the Farseer from moving and shooting as we head into Aeldari turn 3.
So we'll try and get Fortune off again. It'd be quite useful if it did. It did this time.
Yeah, so -1 to wound on the Farseer.
So I'll move over to objective 3, and then in the shooting phase, we will throw the Singing Spear at the single Termagant and use Eldritch Storm on the unit of 2. We'll start with the Eldritch Storm. It gets 5 shots, that's what we need. He's hit on 3s. Oh, they all hit. 2s to wound, yeah, they're dead.
Yep, very dead.
And the Singing Spear hits on a 2, yes, and wounds on a 2. It did.
5+, made it. So these 2 arrivals get frazzled, and that 1 Termagant survives. And then we'll be heading into Tyranid's turn 4 and the final battle round. And my last unit of Termagants arrives in spawn point 1. Those Tyranids that have newly arrived aren't going to be able to get in range to charge, so they're going to move on normally and shoot, while the remaining Termagant from wave 2 is going to move up to get 2 inches away, so his charge is really easy. And then we've got shooting. We'll have all 3 able to shoot, and I'll just roll them all together. 3 shots hitting on 4s. They all missed. I'm going to re-roll one of them into a miss. That's not good. I need to charge in with that lone Termagant and do 2 wounds over the course of the next 2 combat phases. While the charge is successful. Now it's down to the hero Termagant hitting on a 4. He hits. Wounding on a 5 because Fortune doesn't wound. Gonna re-roll that. Into a wound.
4+ to save. Oh, we made our save.
Oh, there you go.
And then 2 attacks back. They both hit. Only 1 wounds. Might as well re-roll that because I don't really need the command points for anything anymore. Oh, it's only 1 wound.
With a 5+ save? No. Hero Termagant dies. And then it'll be Aeldari turn 4. The Farseer will gather intelligence on objective 3.
And then we can just try and frazzle the other ones with Eldritch Storm, I suppose. Getting 5 shots. Well, only 2 of them hit, actually. But yeah, they do go.
They're both dead. And so that'll be an Aeldari victory. And I think we'll leave it at that point and recap those games for you now. Well, those were the game for issue 21 of Warhammer 40,000 Combat Patrol magazine. How do you think they went?
Well, I mean, okay, I suppose. Kind of difficult to know exactly what to take from a game like that, but the Farseer probably did actually need his special abilities. In the second game, if I had to make all those saves without the benefits of Fortune and the invulnerable save, then I think it would have been dead again. The thing is, because we get the full data sheets before we have an explanation of them, sometimes we have in the past had a rule that is very easy to understand, but then was later given a how it works article. But there's no such thing for the Farseer at all. We just went straight from the data sheet into the mission, so...
Yeah, I think by now you should be able to figure out what those sorts of abilities mean, because you've used the ones from the Space Marines and the Tyranids by now, or some of them at the very least.
Invulnerable saves we definitely haven't had introduced. Quite a few of the Space Marine units have invulnerable saves, but they weren't ever relevant.
Yeah, I think invulnerable saves would have been irrelevant until this point.
So presumably they will introduce that, so we won't go over that right now anyway, because we're sort of expecting them to cover it properly.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a lot you can really take away from a game like this. I think realistically you're not going to have a Farseer running around on his own. I guess it goes to show that he's a bit fragile if you leave him on his own, if even Termagants can threaten him.
Yeah, well, and it shows that he's a support character. The Eldritch Storm is quite a good ranged attack, if a little bit inconsistent because it has the d6 shots, but he's clearly not very good in melee at all. Actually, even on a couple of occasions failing to kill 2 Termagants with shooting, but he's a Farseer. He's not strictly a warrior anyway. More like a wizard character. Obviously, the Fortune power doesn't just work on himself, it works on any Aeldari unit. Certainly within the Combat Patrol, that would be handy for both some of the more fragile units and the particularly durable ones that we'll be getting.
Yeah, I guess they're in a bit of a fix with what they do with the Combat Patrol, because we've now finished the Tyranid and Space Marine Combat Patrols, but over the next 10 issues will be all the Aeldari ones, so we can't do games of the same size as we were doing towards the end of the last 20 issues. I guess it's a bit hard to start introducing things as well. We need to find the right point to introduce everything with the new units, so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yes, there's not much you can do with a single character beyond facing off against some Termagants, especially when the character is so fragile to start with. I suppose we could have had some sort of narrative style scenario where there's a Farseer aiding some Space Marines. The Imperium and the Aeldari don't really get on most of the time, but sometimes they do help each other out on the basis that there's a bigger threat like the Tyranids.
Yeah, that sort of thing would never come up in normal Combat Patrol games, so it does seem like there isn't so much of a narrative to these scenarios at the very least.
No, and indeed, in this scenario we're just on a nameless planet somewhere, clearly not the same place that we've just been fighting on with the Space Marines, so whether it will link in at all or whether this just be a random scenario, we don't know yet. And obviously the Farseer model is the first of the Aeldari. I do really like the model. It's a very good example of the Aeldari aesthetic. There are a variety of sort of sub-themes within the Aeldari, and the various Psykers are one of them, and Farseer is a prime example. I did put it on a slightly larger base. It comes with the moulded 25mm base, but I actually sawed the detail off the top of that and put it on a 28.5mm base to match the Guardians that we're going to be getting, because he's going to be leading them, and it just feels silly to me that the leading character should have a smaller base than the unit he's leading. But I don't think it matters strictly. It's not going to gain any real game advantage. And it's actually quite a fun model to paint. Although it looks quite good once all the details are done, there's really not actually that many colours on it. The Aeldari do actually have a relatively plain aesthetic. The Farseer is one of the most ornamental models, and even then I just painted all of the metal details the same colour, so it didn't really take that long.
It's probably a testament to the Aeldari design that it wasn't until 2024 most of their models were still from the 90s, and half their tanks are from the 90s, and they still look really good.
Yeah, and actually all the newer models, even the new Guardians we're getting, are just an updating of the old design. There's really nothing much new in the Aeldari range. Well, anyway, we're going to see plenty more of that as we get the other models.
Yeah, and obviously this will be a good value for money, because characters these days are usually above £25. But anyway, I don't think there's much more to say about this game with this issue. So if you've been following along, tell us how you've been getting on. If you tried this game, how you got on with your Farseer and so on. Having so many factions in this magazine might make things a little bit confusing going on, but we'll try to keep it so that we will play the same factions each time. It might get a bit weird if we end up doing a game of Aeldari versus Space Marines. In that case, I think I'll play the Space Marines. We'll just work things out as we go. We'll try and keep it consistent between who plays what. But otherwise, if you have any comments on that, let us know. We've been the Total Donkeys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye for now.